it seems like the consumer is getting less and less. Well, everybody's moving to the cloud, but what happens when you can't move to the cloud? And what happens to your applications that are being forced to the cloud, but you simply can't go to the cloud? We're going to talk about it in this episode. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, Alex, and welcome everyone to DevOps Roundup.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and we got a juicy one for y'all today.
Yeah. So we were just talking off camera about homegrown applications. And that's basically when someone doesn't like anything off the shelf or doesn't want to pay for anything off the shelf, or they can't find anything that fits their exact use case or their needs. And so they decide to create it themselves.
And the circle of life is complete.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember being in my career early 2009, 2010, and the term COTS was very hot. Commercial off the shelf COTS products. Yeah, everybody wanted to move to a COTS product because we all got tired of managing our own environments. But the times have changed. AI is now a thing.
Yeah, I would say that AI is making this come back full circle, whole circle of life here. That it makes more sense to develop your own apps if you don't want to be held
hostage.
By the software vendors, where some of the software vendors are increasing their prices more and more.
Every October, it's like every app in October is like, we're raising prices.
Yeah. And not only that they're changing features on their time scale, and they're they're not fixing bugs, but they're adding ridiculous changes that no one asked for, as they're dictating where you need to run their application, being SaaS or.
Yeah, it seems like the consumer is getting less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always more rules, more limitations, more anti-leverage, because you as a consumer get less leverage now. And I think people gotta do what they gotta do, and I firmly believe AI enables a new era. And I'm more optimistic this time around than back in the early 2000s, because back in the early 2000s, if you wanted a homegrown something, there was a lot of hoops and a lot of processes and a lot of vulnerabilities and scans and, a lot of stuff to go through.
Yeah.
But we don't have to worry about all those things as much anymore.
Yeah. So obviously I predate your entry.
My early 2000s.
Your early 2000s. So I definitely saw that in the early 90s. In the late 80s, there wasn't a lot of commercial software. And you were mostly
building something.
Building something.
Yeah, but
the upkeep you were expected to.
Yeah, but the upkeep of that was intense, right? You were responsible for your own patches. You were responsible for, just maintaining the securities and the vulnerabilities and all of that, which was okay, but it was a full-time job to do.
Yeah.
And so you needed either the resources to have a dedicated team, or you had the resources to have a dedicated team.
Yeah, there's no or on that.
Yeah, so, there was no or. You were paying somebody to build that instead of a product your company could sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's always the argument a vendor will say to the customer or the potential customer. A good tech rep will typically bring up, do you really want Alex spending all of his day maintaining this homegrown tool, or do you want him working on product that ultimately your company is going to sell?
Except we're in the age of AI.
Yeah. AI can definitely help maintain these homegrown tools, or help you develop these homegrown tools
quickly. Yeah, because when I was one of my very first companies I worked at, we had a homegrown tool. It had a clever name, but it was basically a Jira-like tool that was used for developers to track, tasks and bugs. Right? It was really a bug tracker. That's what it really was. But I remember pushing ourselves to get it off of a server, because you could literally click the box where that application was hosted.
And it was under someone's desk, right?
It literally was under someone's desk. And I remember going through the effort to move it to at least a data center that was owned by the company. But eventually all that stuff got replaced with something like Jira, right? But now that Atlassian doesn't have or has basically told the whole world, we aren't offering an on-premise solution for y'all. It's cloud or bust. I wonder how many companies that still depend on this on-premise world are basically saying, well, like, well, can we rebuild something now with AI as an assistant? Because can we tailor to our specific processes too? Because I think one of the biggest struggles you also have with these COTS, right, these commercial off the shelves, is you almost kind of have to conform your processes a little bit to how the app
You
works.
do, and but that's one of my mantras is you don't pick, you don't create your processes for the tools you have. You pick your tools for the processes that you want. Don't allow the tools to dictate how you do things. And that's how I've kind of decided which tools to support in my career. Is I'm always going to go to those ones that allow me to define the process inside their tools, and not something that's going to be draconian and forcing me to do their processes. And you do see as tools mature, they typically come out with a way. And so if going to a way that's counter to that. So if you look at Jira with team managed projects, well, that's something out of the box, and it's kind of it's got the guardrails on there how Jira or how Atlassian wants you to do projects. But and I can point to other references and other
And other tools,
tools.
yeah.
Yeah.
But how far fetched is this idea that companies are now empowered or can be empowered to build their own homegrown solutions?
I don't think it's far-fetched at all. And I think that, there's an ROI scale here where, typically there's better ROI to go out and buy a COTS product and install it in or use it in your company versus having, paying full-time people to homegrown something and maintain it. I think that we're tipping the scales now, that it's back to, the homegrown stuff makes more sense now.
Yeah, because your cost per user, you have no control over it,
Mhm.
right? And the vendors on an annual, I mean, we're seeing it with companies like Atlassian, 5-10% is the norm per year.
Yeah.
You stack enough of these per years.
Well, that and if we keep using Atlassian as an example, which is fine, you've got the base price, you've got the add-on price, and got the user tiers. Unless you're monthly now, your user tiers, you have to jump up by 50 or 100 or
100, yeah,
however.
sometimes 200, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of rules. So you compare that, and these, I mean, these Atlassian tools, or I mean, any tools for that matter, aren't cheap, right? You're almost, I think we've done this analysis of all the Git tools, right? So you're looking at an average per application around $20 a tool. I mean, $20 per user, per tool, per month for a decent set of features on the tool. So if you have 1,000-person company, $20 a user times 12 versus having a developer who's already peaked, right, has some interest, and unleashing them with the power of all the latest and greatest AI models we have available to us. Can you build a sustainable solution? Because you don't have to go and like, I feel like back in the day, you would have had to learn databases. You would learn how to do like all the vulnerability stuff, right? Like how to make things secure. And then you'd have to build a front end and a back end. And that's a whole team of people that you need, right? You need at least a half a dozen to a dozen members just to build some homegrown solution. But now with deep research, now with the knowledge learning that like teach me as I'm going AI that's enabled,
If you have that team is now much
what,
more effective.
or one or two people, yeah.
Or only one or two people. But I would say that the whole push to cloud and the price increasing, everything that we just mentioned, is making not only homegrown solutions more attractive, but open source projects much more attractive. So if you have something that it's open source and it does 80% of what Jira does, it makes more sense to adopt that and then enhance it, and you kind of like in a hybrid model where you're using bug tracker, but you've modified 20% of it to to include all the bells and whistles you needed that the
Yeah.
open source product doesn't have. So now
And
you have a homegrown open source hybrid.
and that might be an upswing again now back on the open source community, because one of the things that I never really liked about open source was that the open source products just never felt as complete or
Package.
as
Yeah.
packaged and polished
Mhm.
as a SaaS or COTS, right? As again, that commercial off the shelf. But again, with the power of AI, we have designers, UI
Mhm.
experts, UX experts,
Yeah.
right? Every domain that you could possibly need at your fingertips. So even if you're like, I've always felt open source projects felt very engineering, like Bitwarden. Have you ever used Bitwarden instead
Yes.
of LastPass?
Mhm.
Yeah, it feels like it's a great tool, but I wouldn't want my mom to use it.
No, there's a lot of things that I'd like to use, but I could not. I can't stomach having to explain to a non-tech user how to
Right.
use it.
So are we?
So, release team, DevOps tool specialists. We provide professional services and software reselling around the leading software DevOps tools like Atlassian, GitLab, GitHub, JFrog, and others. To talk with us about DevOps, here's our contact information. Please call 866-887-0489 or via email at info@releaseteam.com. How to
Right.
use
So is AI going to revolutionize the way AI open source projects are built, because you don't need all that domain expertise
it. Mhm.
to help you build something polished?
Yeah, I definitely think AI is going to help on this, and I think the pendulum is moving back towards open source. And I'm tired of some of the vendors, doing all the things we've already mentioned, and it's just making the ROI more attractive to do it in house. Because even with these COT solutions, you typically had tool administrators on site that can now create their
Features.
homegrown
Yeah, they
versions.
can add to it, and
And
and you can what would be most attractive to me is the governance part across the applications is important, right? Like Atlassian, you can jump from company to company and you're going to use Atlassian similar. You can jump from company to company, you're going to use GitHub similarly, right? You're not GitHub capabilities are built into GitHub, and so you either use them or you don't use them. But there's not a whole lot of in between. But I can see companies that maybe want to have a GitHub like tool that also does the rest of their CI/CD pipeline a little bit more efficiently or more tailored to their process. That in
Mhm.
the past they've had to hand jam things or really get creative with how they string their pipelines
Yeah,
together, but now they can kind of just natively build it in.
exactly. And like I I would assume, and in fact, from my experience, the majority of our customers have had homegrown solutions for some aspects of DevOps, where they just weren't happy with the available COTS solutions. Um, and in fact, recently one of our engagements was to migrate a team off of a homegrown solution into Jira, which is a very common use case for our services.
But it was
Um,
a common use case because of the technical debt and overhead that a homegrown solution carried.
mhm,
And I
yeah.
don't think that that's going to be the case in the future.
I think you're right. I think that the opportunity for technical debt is there with a homegrown solution as much as it is with a COTS solution. Um, that if you tie yourself into a particular vendor, you can technical debt is going to creep up no matter what your solution is. And now with AI, fixing the technical debt on a homegrown solution is not quite as onerous
Yeah.
as in the past.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you don't need a whole lot of people. And I think a 1 to 2 developers heck, give them a hackathon weekend type of thing. You could probably get some pretty solid things coming out of a weekend project.
Yeah.
Almost. Do you ever watch HGTV, like where you do like weekend makeovers on your house?
Years ago, I stopped watching
Yeah, I
that
wonder.
when I cut cable.
Let us know in the comment section if you'd like Sean and I to like spend 3 days everywhere once a quarter building
Doing home
homegrown.
improvements, I already do that.
No, but building homegrown solutions on as a live stream.
Mm.
Can you imagine like I also see a business unit where or business potential where you could essentially teach people how to build homegrown applications using
I
AI,
can see that. Yeah.
right? Like here's a checklist of the do's and don'ts, and this is going to get you 80% of the way there.
Yeah. I think as long as we caveat that we're not saying that AI is completely there to do these things yet. It's just a huge
Assistant.
assistant.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You still need. So I was very careful with that, right? Like you still need your developers to develop, but this I think enables your developers to also, because who knows the pain points of your organization better than your frontline workers?
True. Yeah.
And they can now leverage because they don't need to again gain all these domain skills,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you used to have to be a database expert to build databases correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have some design skills to build a front end correctly. But any developer on your team can take a frustration and through vibe coding, right, build it. But it's not really vibe coding in a sense because
yeah, I'm not a
coding,
big fan of the term vibe.
Vibe coding gets a bad rap, but only because you have non-engineers using it.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you have a non-person that's not
Actually,
really,
I like that. I think if vibe coding means a non-developer developing with AI is vibe coding, but when you vibe code as a software engineer, I don't think it should be called vibe coding. It's more of assistance.
assistant,
Yeah, it's more of
a residency program.
yeah.
You're in residency with AI.
Basically a personal assistant that for the most part is your memory.
But not only that, but you also have with agentified AI, a single developer can build an army of like you can have a database expert on your team, a design expert on your team that it's not you, but you're simply interacting with that agent as if they were that expert. And so now you're getting that feedback.
Yeah, I think we should do an episode where we decide to create something and
Jira 2.0.
yeah. So
sorry, I'm a little bitter,
Jira's
guys.
already at 9 point something, right? Or no, 10 something.
11, no, it's coming out
Are
soon.
they 11 already? I don't.
11.
Yeah, I maintain so many software development tools that I don't remember the
version numbers.
The version numbers anymore.
You should see. Remember, so that bug that we reproduced last week for the booking.
Oh yes, yeah.
We got it. They got it resolved.
Oh, nice. So they were able to reproduce.
Yeah.
So for the people that don't know what we're talking about, there's a Atlassian add-on company. What is it? AppWide?
AppWide, yeah.
AppWide that asked us to review their product, and Alex found a bug in it, and I actually didn't. So the demo I did apparently didn't have your exact use case in it.
Yeah, the steps that I followed broke it.
Oh, did you actually follow their steps that they gave
No, the
you?
steps the way I interface with the app. And this is why I love, so not to go too much off topic, but this is why I love working with vendors and stuff, because I think we can tie this back into this homegrown solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll echo a statement. Your developers, your frontline workers understand your company's problems the best. So if there were to be a solution to solve the problems that keep you up at night, it would be those frontline workers. So
Exactly.
enable them and empower them with AI, and like you got some crazy stuff happening here, right? And so what I was saying is like I like to work with vendors because I consult so much with the Atlassian ecosystem that I know the ins and outs of, and I know the pain points of people. So when I'm using the tools, I'm using the tools from a very different perspective than the developers that made that tool. And I tend to run into these edge cases where they're like, we never thought of using it that way. I'm like, well, I got a whole army over here that does use it that way. So, but yeah, this is where I'm super excited for like homegrown solutions, because that would mean that the problems that keep up your directors and your VPs and your executives up at night they could potentially be solved. And they go far beyond just DevOps, right? Like you can see a manufacturing line having a better inventory control system that is much more automated, much more, again, tailored to their specific process.
Yeah. So definitely this is a cycle that's repeated itself, and it seems to be the catalyst for it is either the solution doesn't already exist, or the solution exists but it's too expensive, or there's some qualifications to use it that the company either can't meet or disagree with. When I first started in my career, the very first product that I was responsible for was a homegrown system. The homegrown tool, the company I was working for at the time did not like any of the commercial C++ compilers. And so they decided that they were going to create their own, which they did, but in they ended up not actually using it. And then we adopted another tool that was a homegrown tool from another company that company decided, why are we creating this tool? And they allowed all those people to leave the company and take the tool with them. And then they founded their own company, which is where we got ClearCase from. So I found a way to tie ClearCase back into our podcast. But so that's the next thing, is once your homegrown tool becomes popular, where more and more people from your organization is using it. So you may have created it for project A, but all of a sudden project B, C, and D, are interested, and so now you're maintaining it for multiple teams inside your company.
Except you're not maintaining it alone. You have your assistant to help you maintain it.
Yeah. Well, that will probably speed up the process. And where I'm going with this is, when does this spin off into its own business unit and it now becomes a COTS product?
Kind of like maybe a COTS, but I would see the future more closer to what Meta is doing with Llama, and just open source the model, like or make a product. It's the infinite cycle of hell, isn't it?
Yeah, so I would say that at some organizations, if the tool becomes popular enough, it open sources itself, or they open source it, and that's how we got Jenkins. So Jenkins was originally called Hudson, and it was from
the Hudson company,
Sun Microsystems. And when during one of the acquisitions or mergers, they decided that they weren't going to maintain it anymore, and it became a completely open source tool. So.
Yeah, no, I think RenderMan, the same thing with Pixar, right? They build that homegrown solution, and I think licenses out, and then game engines as well in the gaming space. Like you build a game engine, then you license it out. So that would be interesting. What if software then became more of a licensing model than a usage model?
Well, isn't it always been a licensing model?
No, a licensing model in this respect that you get the software package and then you go and use it and like shape it to however you need to shape it. Kind of like source code included.
Oh, so you're just paying for a license fee and not a per user license fee.
Yeah,
so
like you pay
even though I have 100,000 users at my company, I'm going to pay for the one-off license for
like a royalty fee, right? Like again, like game engines, I feel like very few companies build a game engine. There's two big ones.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Well, there's Unreal Engine and what's the other one?
Sure.
Unity, right?
Yeah.
But developers that want to build their experiences so they don't have to reinvent the whole wheel, they just simply pay a licensing fee.
Sure. Yeah.
Not a license fee, but a licensing.
Yeah, licensing fee, so I can reuse your engine for my game.
Yeah, for my customization and whatever I need to do. But you install it, you maintain it, you still own it.
And it's not on a per user basis. So if my game gets popular and I now have 1 million people playing my game, I'm still paying the same licensing fee to the engine company.
Right. So whether you have 10 employees or 1,000 employees, you just pay almost like a royalty.
Yeah. I don't know if I see any, software development tool company going that route.
Well, because here's my concern. Here's why I bring it up, because
Mhm.
what happens if you go too extreme and like everybody has a homegrown solution, then like you'll have anarchy as well.
Yeah. Well, again, that's one end of the pendulum, and as you get more towards anarchy, then the ROI flips back to, let's bring some sanity and consolidate around a common set of tools instead of everyone having their own homegrown tools.
Yeah. I just love how history repeats itself though, because we saw this with iTunes. iTunes was like a great, because what you reminded me of right now when you were saying that pendulum swinging is
Mhm.
iTunes was a tool to load music from your computer to your iPod.
Uh-huh.
Then it became a music store where you could buy music,
Mhm.
then you can listen to that music, and or you can load it to your iPod.
Uh-huh.
But then you can buy music videos. Then you could buy movies and TV shows. And then you could buy apps. And then you could watch trailers. And like
This,
iTunes became this like hyper bloated tool
uh-huh.
that ended up being dismantled to Apple Music, Apple University, Apple
Uh-huh.
Podcasts, right? Like,
Yeah, full circle.
yeah.
Luckily, that was a cycle I did not join. Um,
Oh, you remember the Winamp days?
Oh, I definitely remember all of that. I
And then
did
remember,
not
you ever
ride
use
that ride.
Trillion?
The name sounds extremely
Trillion. So
familiar.
you used to have AOL Instant Messenger, MSN Messenger. You would have like all these like ICQs, and then
I was
Trillion came out.
ICQ. Yeah.
Yeah, Trillion came together and was like, let's just put them all together in one
Oh, yeah,
login.
yeah, yeah. I remember Trillion now. Yeah, it was just a one browser to read all the different feeds. Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's a very interesting pendulum swing, and I think I just think that we're exceeding or coming to the tail end of how cloud makes sense,
Yeah.
especially with like the number of like the bigger these companies get, like the bigger outages. Like Atlassian had some major outages last week.
Yeah, same week they announced the end of life of data center.
Yeah,
They were out for like.
but they become bigger targets, right? They become
Mhm.
bigger targets for vulnerabilities and
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, it goes back to the let's pick on Apple again. Um, the iOS, or whatever the Mac OS is, doesn't have as many vulnerabilities or viruses or anything, but it's not because it's more secure. It's because it was least used, and
yeah,
the attackers are going to go after the big guys. They're going to, it's just it's percentages. If I want to cause the most havoc, I'm going to attack the thing that is used by the most people. And why would it make sense to create a virus that only hits a tenth of the market versus 90% of the market?
right.
Um, Now, I would say that the Windows operating system is not it's probably still number one, but it's not as much as it used to be. There's a lot of other OSs that have been nickeling and diming it, and Apple's come a long way. There's so many people in IT walking around with Macs these days, but
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. Like those pendulums swing, and I think the people that get out ahead is the people that can see the swing as
mhm,
before, like they can anticipate the swing.
yeah.
Because if
Well,
you're
there,
just riding the swing, then you're just gonna be in there with the pains.
yeah. Well, some of those just like to play the long odds.
But let us know in the comment section down below, where are you guys at in your company, your organization, or just in your personal philosophies of homegrown versus SaaS or COTS? Like, do you
Yeah.
see a swing? Are you feeling the effects that we're seeing and feeling?
Yeah. In your professional organization, how many of the apps do you interface with are actually homegrown or heavily customized open source?
And
Versus,
or how much of the applications that you currently pay for would benefit from being homegrown or heavily customized, given that it's so much that barrier to entry is so much lower now in 2025 than it was in 2005.
yeah.
So anyways, folks, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this conversation, drop a like, and as always, thank you for watching.
Thanks, everyone.